Bi'ur Mishnah Chet. We're going to continue with this topic. Explanation for Mishnah Chet. Mishnah zo, this Mishnah, dana bepsulim le'edot mechamat avera. This is going to be also according to the sages. The sages are not going to accept everybody. Some people who are sinners, we're going to see what type of sins. The sages do not accept their testimony. It says, you guys can testify. Vedin Torahu, and this is a law from the Torah.
How do they know that they sin?
We'll see.
Oh.
שכל הנקרא רשע, הרי הוא פסול לעדות. Anybody that we call the name Rasha on him, he is not permitted to be a witness. שנאמר, because how do we know this? Because there's a verse that says you're not allowed to join a Rasha in testimony. Well, it says in Shmot, al tashet yadcha. It says don't combine together im Rasha, with an evil guy, with a Rasha. Lihiyot ed Hamas, to be a witness of Hamas, a witness of to bed, a witness to bed. V'darshu al tashet Rasha ed, and they said, don't. What does it mean? Don't tashet Rasha. Mikan kol mi she'avar avera. So here, this is what a Rasha is. A Rasha is somebody who transgressed any sin. Shechayav alea malkot, that you would receive lashes on it. In other words, a person who would receive lashes for a specific sin, of course, if we use karet, or if he will get a death penalty, that's for sure. But even just malchus, if the penalty is for you is to get lashes, usually lashes means you went against the rabbis. Anytime you did a mitzvah against the rabbis, right? If you are known to be one of those guys who goes against the rabbis, you cannot be a witness. That's it. Hareu pasul le'edut. That person is not. We cannot receive his testimony. Sheken bechayavei malkot ne'emar, because in all those people who receive lashes, it says v'haya im ben hekot harasha. They call the people who receive lashes rasha when the rasha gets hit. So they call him Rasha, therefore a Rasha cannot be a witness. וכל שכן, מי שחייב כרת או מיתת בית דין, how much more so, anybody who's obligated kares, or can be death penalty, שנקרא Rasha, that is called a Rasha, והוא פסול לעדות. And he's also פסול לעדות. הוא הדין, and this is, by the way, this is not the only way. There's other ways also you can become, like what? מי שלקח ממון חברו שלא כדין. Somebody who took the money of his friend not the right way. By the way, there's no malchus for stealing. Right? You steal, or what do you have to do? You have to give the object back. There's no malchus. But it says when it comes to stealing, you stole something, that's it. You also, even though there's no malchus, you cannot be a witness. כגון גנב או גזלן, just like a thief, or somebody, a gazlan is somebody who comes with a gun. There's a difference. Somebody comes at night and steals, somebody comes with a gun and says, give me. אף על פי שאינו חייב מלקות, even though these two guys are not obligated with lashes, כי אם תשלומים, we tell them pay the money back, פסול הוא לעדות. These people are not going to be able to testify in any case. They're not going to be able to testify in any case, including החודש. משנתנו אינה מונה אלא פסולים מדברי סופרים. Our Mishnah only enumerates those who are not going to be witnesses from the rabbis. שכל אלו חשודים לעבור עבירות בדבר שבממון. Because these guys are not trustworthy. What does it mean? These guys, we know they break the rules for money. That's what you know. That's why you can't accept them as testimony. It says, how can you get, you guys are not, you break the rules for money, so we can't trust you in anything. You break the rules for money. Somebody give you $5, you're going to say whatever the guy gave you. You're not trustworthy. So that's understood. But the question is over here, they're not gaining anything. What is the person gaining from saying there's a new moon? So I understand that you're telling me, you know what, when in case of money, that Reuven owes Shimon, he's not trusted. But over here, it's a case of money. Because it says, we don't know. Somebody might have gave you $20 to go and say you saw a new moon, for whatever reason. Yeah, we don't know. So therefore, you guys, we're not going to accept you, even in cases that have nothing to do with money. We're not going to accept you. You're done. ולכן נחשדו אף להעיד שקר על ידי שוחד. Therefore, we don't trust them, even though this case has got nothing to do with money. And we only don't trust them because of money, but because since somebody can pay the money to say the sod the new moon, we don't trust them. ואף בעדות החושד היו חשודים להטעות את החכמים. Therefore, we don't trust them that they might be lying over here also. Okay, so let's see who is not allowed to, besides these ones, who else is not allowed to give testimony. אלו הן הפסולים לעדות. These are the one who are not allowed to be witnesses in also Rosh Chodesh, also in the new month. המשחק בקובייה, somebody who gambles. Somebody who goes to the casino is not allowed to be a witness.
Gamble, not literally קובייה.
Yeah, gambles. במשחק של קוביות, in a game of gambling, in a game of cubes, עצמות, או חלוקי אבנים, whatever they have to do in dominoes, whatever the case was at the time. כאין משחק הקלפים שבימינו, just like cards in our days. Why? Just to play cards you're allowed to. That's not a problem. They did it כדי לזכות בכספים. Obviously they're gambling. In other words, they did it in order for, it's a way to gamble. כפי תנאי המשחק, like the conditions of the game. במסכת סנהדרין מבואר, in the tractate Sanhedrin, it is stated, שמדובר במשחק בקובייה שאין לו אלא התעסקות זו בלבד. We're not talking about a guy, 3 guys or 5 guys who come once a month and have a poker game for some money. We're not talking about those guys. Those guys, we accept their testimony. We're talking about a professional gambler. You know how he makes a living? You know how he makes a living? He lives in Las Vegas. This is how he makes his parnasa. This is how he makes his money. He makes his money by gambling. So a guy that comes once in a while and gambles with his friends, we'll discuss him. We'll discuss him. והטעם שהוא פסול לעדות. Now, why? The question is, what does gambling have to do with it? So he is a gambler. So what? A gambler is not allowed to be a witness? What's the problem? לפי שאינו עוסק ביישובו של עולם. Because this guy is not participating, let's call it, in the upkeep of the land. What does it mean, do not participate in the upkeep of the land? He doesn't contribute anything to society. There's no contribution from him. He doesn't do anything. See, any other person, he does something to society. This guy makes this guy makes that, this guy does the accounting. Anybody else does something to society. This guy is not helping society at all. He's not creating anything. He's just taking money from other people. כלומר, שאינו עוסק בדברים המביאים תועלת ליישוב העולם. He's not contributing to society in any positive manner. כגון תורה, he's not learning Torah, he's not a professor, he's not או מלאכה, or he's not doing any work וכדומה. That's the first reason.
They know that he's not going to open a בית תמחוי.
So if he
How do they know this?
It's not that they know. His mindset is that he doesn't contribute to society. He chose a job that says, I don't contribute to society. He chose to make a living.
How did they know that? Maybe he goes and he plays cards. But then he have a bet tamchui. He gives money to the poor people and he helps people and he did beseder.
Even if he does.
Even if he does it, it's not good.
I'll tell you why.
יש פה משהו, נקודה I don't understand.
Because his mindset is, what does it mean to work? To work means to take somebody else's money without working. That his mind is, I don't have to do anything to society. That's what his mindset. So, you're saying that he might do this. You can even check it. I would say 99.9% of the guys who are gamblers don't contribute to society. People who are working hard, they know the value of money, they contribute to society. People who are on their whole life is just to take money, they might open up a beit tamchui so they pay less taxes. Yeah, that's the only idea. But they're not going to open it because they're really interested in opening it, because their mindset is to take from society. It's not to give to society. Okay. Yeah, that's the first explanation. If you want the second explanation, it's going to be easier for you to understand maybe. ושאינו מכיר בתורכם וצרותיהם של בני אדם. He doesn't know the struggle of the people. He doesn't know what people have to go through. ואינו חס על חברו להפסיד ממונו. He doesn't realize that this guy, he just took $200,000 from some guy. That guy worked 40 years for that. And he took it from him in 2 minutes. He doesn't care. He doesn't mind. You know, it's not a person who cares about what's happening in society. Because if he would care, he wouldn't take 40 years of hard work from the guy in 2 minutes. He would feel a little bit guilty. Yeah. להשתמש, וכן אינו בוש לומר שקר. And also those people are not embarrassed to say lies. It says, how do you know that they're not embarrassed to say lies? How do you know?
I don't know.
Because that's what poker is all about. What is poker is all about? What is gambling all about? You give the impression that you have a hand when you don't have a hand, and you give the impression that you don't have a hand. In other words, these guys practice to lie. That's the practice. They're all the time when they have a good hand, when they have good chance.
Poker, he's talking קוביות.
Any chance game.
קוביות אתה לא משקר.
Yeah, but in any chance game, there's an impression you give. The impression, you give an impression. There's, there's the idea. In Shach, not so much, maybe, because it's more skill. It's more skill than anything else. But we're talking about gambling. In all gambling, you give the impression of something. שכן רגילו במשחקו להשתמש בדרכי הונאה. Because this is the way of all gambling. You try to give an impression of, otherwise the guy is not going to take the bet. The whole idea is to give the impression you can win, go. That's the whole idea of gambling. Gambling, you're training yourself to be a liar. You're in training to be a liar. Yeah. In other words, you're in training to be a liar all your life. That's how you make a living, and you want us to trust you. And you want us to trust you. This is, it became part of you. We cannot trust you. We don't trust you. ואינו מתגנה לדברות על ידי כך. And also, think about it. Whenever you got caught lying in business or in any other place, people look at you, you're a lowlife. How can you lie? In poker, when you have a 7-2 and you say like that, you become a hero. Wow, look, he's the guy. He had nothing. It's exactly the opposite. You're getting praised to be a liar.
Going against
you're going against the whole thing. This is one opinion. ויש מבארים הטעם, and there are those who explain the reason, לפי שהמשחק בקובייה הוא גזלן מדרבנן. They say because anybody who gambles is actually not like a guy who steals. He's a guy like who steals with a gun. Why is he stealing with a gun? מאחר שזוכה בו בכספים של חברו בלא הקנאה גמורה. Because it says, notice when you give, it says, how do you know that why is gambling according to the rabbi is not allowed? I made an agreement, you made an agreement, it should be okay. We're adults, we can both get into agreement. He says, no, it's not. It says, how do you know? Because when you come and you made a business deal, right? And you come to terms with the guy, even though the terms are bad for you, you're forced into them. The guy did this to you, and you're forced into the bad terms. Once you give the money, or once he gives the money, in your head you're happy with it. You know, once you get to the agreement, you live with what it is. You know what it does. It says in betting, when you give the money, you're not happy. In other words, but
lose. Give money, it's losing.
Yeah, but also in business, sometimes you give money and you're losing. But in business, you accept it. In other words, you know that he deserves it.
Part of the...
Yeah, it's part of the... Over here, you give it and you're saying it's still mine. It says, the guy cheated me. The guy is there. In other words, you didn't really give money. You gave it forcefully, let's call it. That's what they call it, eino hakna'a gmura. You didn't actually are willing for the deal. You're willing to the deal, not exactly. אלא בדרך אסמכתה. It's like an asmachta. What's an asmachta? הסתמכות על הבטחה ללא התחייבות גמורה. And that's why you see that when two guys say a business deal, right? They say, I'll give you this for that. And then the guy changes his mind and says, you said it. So the guy says, you know what? I said it. But if two guys says, let's bet that this and this happen, right? and then they wait a week and they see it happened or didn't happen, the guy many times says, I'm not giving you the money. How come with the business deal you were giving the money because over here, I didn't really mean it. It's like when you gamble, you didn't really mean to lose the money. You're not really willing to do it. אין זה קניין. ברם, בדעה, יש חולקים על כך, there's those who say you wrong, וסובים שאיזה נקרא אסמכתה. It says no, it is just like a business deal. You're a man. Once you said a word, you said 50-50, this is going, if it's heads or tails, you took the chance, be a man. Don't say, I'm coming back. ואין המשחק בקובייה פסול לעדות, אלא מהטעם שהבאנו למעלה. And therefore, the reason why we're not going to accept your witnesses is just because you're a liar. It trains you how to be a liar. And since you're trained how to be a liar, we cannot trust your testimony.
Here is my question. Now.
The next one?
The answer for my question, yes? He said, I'll hold. It's everything here. I don't need to ask questions.
Okay.
ומלווה בריבית.
ומלווה בריבית. What about a person who gives loans with interest? Also, this guy, we're not going to trust him. ואפילו בריבית שאינו אסורה למדרבנן. Even if the interest is not from the Torah, it's only from the rabbis, you're still not allowed to take his testimony. ולא רק המלווה, אלא אף הלווה פסול. And not just the guy who gives the money, the guy who takes interest, who pays the interest, he's also not allowed to. Why? שכן איסור ריבית, because the prohibition of interest חל על המלווה והלווה כאחד. It comes on both people. On the one who takes the money or the one who brings the money. Over here we don't even need to get into a reasoning why. The Torah says it. You can look at it gzerat hakatuv if you want. But I'm sure if you think about it, it also makes sense. Because over here again, the guy is benefiting over somebody else's suffering. That's what he's doing.
On the other hand, he helped him to buy the house. Otherwise, if he wouldn't give him the money, he couldn't get the house.
That's true. But the Torah said you're not allowed to do that. Yeah, do not do it. You can help him without taking the interest. There's no reason to help him with taking the interest. In other words, it shows that you didn't help. Think about it this way.
Let me ask you, what if you malveh beribit lagoyim?
No, malveh beribit is only to Jews. Malveh beribit to Goyim is a mitzvah. That's a commandment that you have to. You're not allowed to give to a goy without ribit, by the way. You're not allowed to give to a present. You're not allowed to. You have to charge interest. Yeah. It should be a symbolic, yeah. It can be symbolic. It can be symbolic interest. Don't worry, you take interest whether you like it or not.
How do you know?
Because everybody takes interest. The guy is going to be nice to you, right? If you gave somebody $20,000 a loan, right, and he gives you back $20,000 throughout the time, he's nice to you, and you accept this niceness, that's called interest. It's called interest also. So we take interest from whether you like it or not. Yeah. And also there's one more thing. Umafrichei yonim. People who raise doves. Yeah. במסכת סנהדרין מבואר, in the tractate of Sanhedrin it's explained, כיוון משחק, this is just like a horse racing. But it's not exactly like, it's like two guys who race their chickens. It says, my chicken is going to fight against your chicken, whoever wins, that's it.
Some kind of a gambling game.
Yeah. But over here, there's no lying. That's the difference. Yeah. Over here, it's a game of skill. This is going to be like playing chess. See the difference between before? Before, it was a game of lying. Over here, it's a game of skill. Who's the better trainer, whatever. כיוון משחק שמעיפים יונים לשם תחרות, ומי שיונתו קדמה ליונת חברו, and whoever doves came in first, זוכה בסכום הכסף שהתערבו עליו. And he gets the money that they agreed on. והרי זה כמשחק קובייה. It's an offspring of somebody who's gambling. פירוש אחר מובא בגמרא. Another explanation comes in the Gemara, that people who deal with doves, the entire business is stealing. That's the stealing. That's the business. It says, what's the business? שמושכים את היונים על ידי צפצופיהם לבוא אליהם, ויש בזה משום גזל מדרבנן. In other words, it's an interesting case over here. Doves is a wild bird. It belongs to everybody. But when you deal with something like this, in other words, you know that in town there's many people who have shovachim, who have places for doves, right? And when you start growing doves, what are you trying to do? You're trying to attract the doves from other places to come over to your place. In other words, your whole mindset is, how can I steal, even though it's allowed? We didn't tell you it's not allowed. It's wild. You can do with whatever you want. But your whole mindset, again, is how to steal from other people. Yeah, that's all your whole mindset. By the way, you have these concepts in business also. Yeah? Some people, mindset in business is not how to make my business better. It's how to steal the customer from the other guy. That's the whole idea of the business. Yeah? There's two ways of looking at business. You can look at business, how can I give a better service to my customer, and the other one is, he says, how can I steal his customer away? Yeah, you can see in business, some people work this way and some people work this way. Yeah, the same idea. Yeah. Also, socharei shvi'it, people who deal with the 7th year produce, even though that it's only from the rabbis, you're not allowed to. Yeah, in other words, you're allowed from 7. If you remember, 7-year produce, you're not allowed to take into your house. You are allowed to take into your house as long as there's some in the field. Yeah, so you're also allowed to take a little bit to go sell in the market. Yeah, if you want, as long as what? As long as there's something in the field. The Rebbe says, no, don't do that. Okay? שעושים סחרה בפירות שגדלו בשנת השמיטה. In other words, they say, what's your problem? Just like I collected from the field, you can go collect from the field. It's still there. So I'm allowed to sell it to you. You don't want to go to the field? Pay extra here. I'm not doing anything against the rules. I'm giving you the service of bringing it from the field into the marketplace. If
I don't sell you fruits, I give you
service. That's right.
Pay for the delivery.
That's right. Exactly. So it says, no, since you're making business with the 7th year produce, we're not going to allow that also. ואף על פי שאין זה אסור מן התורה, it says, what do you want from me? It's not prohibited from the Torah. I'm just delivery service. שנאמר, והייתה שבת הארץ לכם לאכלה. It says, you're allowed to eat it. I'm just delivery service, like you said. לאכלה ולא לסחורה. It says to eat, not to make business with. And you making it business with, your problem. מכל מקום מונה משנתנו סוחרי שביעית בין הפסולים מדרבנן. It says, I know you're not going exactly against the Torah, it's only delivery service, still, we're not going to give you being witness. Again, you're not trusted. Money changes your mindset.
For everything, not only Rosh Chodesh.
Everything, yeah. שכן מדובר כאן בשביעית בזמן הזה, we're talking about the 7th year in this time, ואין כאן איסור של תורה. And in this time, after the temple, there's no prohibition from the Torah. ויש מבארים, לפי שאינם יודעים שיש בזה איסור מן התורה. And there are those who says, because in the beginning, they think it's not from the Torah. Right? But in the end, it ends up to be an issue from the Torah. מאחר שחוזרים וקונים להם צרכי אוכל בדמי פירות השביעית. Because they take the money that they make and they buy the fruits again. Under it says, oh, now it's already not. So now people are buying the 7th produce with the money they acquired. It says, if I'm allowed to deliver, I'm allowed to buy the fruit itself. In other words, once you are saying, I'm allowed the service, people are saying, oh, if I'm allowed the service, I'm also allowed to buy the fruit. So I'm also allowed to sell the fruit. And that's what becomes the problem. It's true that you're allowed to sell the service. But that will lead you, people are not going to see the difference. How do I know what you're selling? The service of bringing it from the field or the fruit itself? For me, it's the same.
I have a new service. I go to the fields, I go to the fruits.
7th year?
I bring them home my house, I peel them, I cut them, I make them, I put them in a beautiful plate for you. I bring it to you to your home. You pay me for the
basket, for the work, exactly.
Yeah. You don't pay me for the fruit.
That's right. Exactly. But he says people are going to forget after 2 seconds and they're going to start selling the fruit also. Yeah. ויש מפרשים, and there are those who says, שלא מדובר כאן באנשים שיודעים עליהם בוודאות שהם סוחרים בפירות שביעים. We're not talking about people that we know they're actually willing and dealing in the 7th year produce. אלא באנשים שכל השנים היו הולכים בטל. We're talking about people that they live off the government the entire year. וכיוון שהגיעה שנת השמיטה, and once the שנת השמיטה comes around, התחילו לסחור בפירות. Now they become to be salesmen. In other words, if you were selling fruit the entire year, okay, but all of a sudden, only on the 7th year you become selling fruit? Stop to me. שחזקתם שעושים סחורה בפירות שביעית. In other words, to the regular merchant, he's a storekeeper. We allow him to do it. Because for him it is a service. But you, all of a sudden, only on the 7th year, you sell fruit. For you, we're not going to allow. ורמז לפירוש זה שקוראים בשנתנו, סוחרי שביעית. Because that's why we say, it says סוחרי, the merchants of the 7th year. Not the merchants of the fruits. The merchants of the fruits are allowed to. The merchant of the 7th year are not allowed to. Okay, who else are not allowed to? ועבדים. Hainu, Avadim over here is a Canaanite slave, but remember, a Canaanite slave is pretty much Jewish. A Canaanite slave is Jewish. He took upon himself all the commandments. He cannot do. He has to. Otherwise, you're not allowed to keep him as a slave. If you took a person, right, and you took him as a slave, as a Canaanite, and he doesn't accept the
yoke of heaven or
you cannot be a slave. You have to sell him or do something like that.
Now you accept yoke of heaven. You say, God.
So now he's a Jew for everything, except he has got what do you call it? A technical problem. What's the technical problem? His time belongs to you. He's a Jew 100%. His time belongs to me though.
But he does Torah the mitzvah?
Everything he has to put on all the commandments.
No,
every night he doesn't need to put tefillin because it's mitzvah shazman garma. But every mitzvah that a woman is required to do, he's required to do. Yeah, he's 100% Jewish as a woman. It's a technicality. All he's missing is to tell him you're free. Once you tell him you're free, he's 100% Jewish. He's not missing anything.
But it doesn't make sense.
Think about it. ועבדים, היינו עבדים כנענים, we're talking about Canaanite slaves, ופסולים הם לעדות מן התורה, they cannot get testimony from the Torah. Why? שדינם כנשים. Because they are like the Jews, but the women, they have the same status as women. And since women cannot give testimony, they're not allowed to give testimony. Now, why is women not allowed to give testimony? We're going to discuss later on.
Changing genders here.
There's no test.
Then it becomes a man later.
Yeah, the only way you can change genders in Judaism is if you're an androgynous or a tumtum. In other words, you have to have both parts or no parts. Otherwise, you cannot change genders. If you have one part or the other part, there's no changing genders. ועבדים. זה הכלל. This is the ruling. כל עדות שאין האישה כשרה לה, every testimony that the woman is not kosher to give. By the way, there are some testimonies that women are kosher to give. For example, a soita.
What?
A sota.
Oh.
For example, if there's one woman, a witness, a woman that I saw her sleeping with the other guy, then you don't let the sota drink the water. Yeah, because she's a witness. On some cases, we accept testimony of women. In other cases, we don't taste. Which cases we don't accept testimony of women? Usually in monetary cases or in death cases, in those cases. And the reason is an interesting reason. It's because it is the same thing, by the way. It's not that strange. It's like you don't accept the testimony of a guy who is in the mafia to testify against his boss. You shouldn't accept it. Here in America, you do accept. He says, why, or for his boss or against his boss. He says, what kind of stupid testimony is it? You know, this is the second in command to the mafia guy. What do you think he's going to say? Either he's afraid of the boss to kill him, yeah, or
from the police.
Exactly. What kind of a testimony it is? You know, obviously, it's not a kosher testimony. The guy is under duress. It's called testimony under duress. You cannot be trusted. Yeah. Of course, he says, "I didn't see anything." What do you want him to say? Yeah. If John Gotti is over there, what do you want me to say? You want me to say I saw him kill somebody? Of course, I'm going to say he didn't kill somebody. In other words, under duress, your testimony is not accepted. That's the idea. So a woman, since at that time she was pretty much dependent on her husband. In other words, she is in a constant of under duress. So therefore, women, because that was the status, since they're completely dependent on their husband, it's like you're completely under duress. What are you going to say? You're going to say what your husband wants you to say. So that's why the testimony wasn't accepted. כגון לדיני ממונות, for example, for the laws of money, ולדיני נפשות, or the laws of killing, שנאמר, ועמדו שני האנשים, over there it says, and they stood the two men, ודרשו אנשים ולא נשים. From here we learn, they have to be males and not females. שנשים אינם באות לדין. Because women you do not give to judgment. Why? מפי שכל כבודה בת מלך פנימה. Because the area of the woman is inside the house. What do you mean inside the house? That's the matters that she takes care of. She doesn't have, in other words, it's not her area to go outside and to give testimony with things outside of her house. What does it mean? She's not going to go against her house. That's pretty much what it's saying. In other words, she will not go against her husband. You cannot trust her. He says, what do you think she's going to say? Yeah, her whole mission in life is not society.
No, they can prohibit it not against her husband, but for other people.
Oh, so once you don't permit it to once, you can permit it in another. You don't know, maybe the husband has some connection with the other people, so that I can never take the testimony. That's it, it's over. She's passed. Yeah, that's the idea. In other words, her area is under duress all the time. She's not going to go against her husband, so therefore, it's a sad testimony.
But the Eved also is dependent on his master. That's why he's like a woman.
Oh, very good. What do you think? It's like the mafia guy. What do you think? He's going to say something against his master? No. Exactly. That's why we don't take his testimony. It's the same idea. Exactly the same idea. Now you understand the idea. And now you understand the Kohanim in Beit HaMikdash, why they didn't take the testimony of the Eved. Not because right now he's on an Eved. It says your mind state, your entire life you were a slave. I know that he freed you, but still you feel indebted to him. So therefore we're not going to take your testimony. I know that right now you're free. אף הן, כל הפסולים הללו שנמנו במשנתנו, so all these guys who we mentioned over here, אינם כשרים לה. They cannot give testimony, not to any testimony, and of course, not to an easy testimony, אלא ראש חודש, לעדות זו. ברם, בת, כל עדות שהאישה כשרה לה, all the like I mentioned before, there are some things that a woman can be a witness to, כגון להעיד על אישה שמת בעלה, for example, to say about a woman that her husband died. In other words, you don't need two male witnesses, you can get two women witnesses to say. כדי להתירה להינשד, so we saw her husband died, and now she can get remarried. או להעיד על סוטה, or for the example that I gave, that she can be saying on the soita that we saw her, in other words, don't give it to drink because we saw her. שנטמעה, that because we saw her with the other guy, כדי לא להשקותה, מים המררים, so in order not to water her the water. אף כל אלו שנמנו כאן כשרים לה. So therefore, in those cases, all those people, since women are allowed to do it, and all these things are from the rabbis over here, they will be allowed to be witnesses for those things also. אבל הפסולים לעדות מן התורה מחמת עבירה, but all those who are who became not good witnesses because of a Torah law, אינם כשרים אף לעדות שהאישה כשרה לה. They're not going to be witnesses even for the witnesses that the woman is allowed to be in, because there we just don't trust them at all.